بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. The reason I was laughing is because I got a written description of what I should talk about, and it was talking about higher education, particularly high schools in the American context. Yeah. So, but you got that one too? Yeah. We could do tag team. So anyway, I'll try to hit the written request and the oral request in 12 minutes, inshallah. I'd like to start though by, first of all, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Just building on what Dr. Ibrahim Musa mentioned about Mawardi's combining the critical faculties of the jurist with the literary erudition of the literatures. Sheikh Abdurrahman Shaguri, one of our teachers when we were studying in Syria, he would often say, if he would pick up a book and there was no poetry in it, it's not a real book. And that was in any field. And those who are familiar with the latter stages of sort of traditional Islamic education, all of the thick books, Sirah, Ibn Hisham is just filled with poetry. Whatever genre of Islamic literature you find replete with poetry, so sort of the humanistic and legalistic, spiritual, all of these various traditions they came together, and you really see this in the works of latter figures such as Imam Zaid and others. In any case, in terms of high school, we can see certain disturbing trends in our country. If we look at studies done by the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, for example, concerning education in developed countries, you see the United States in terms of elementary education near the top in virtually every category, including science and mathematics. Junior high school, American schools above average in virtually every category, very competitive. Middle school, high school, you see a tremendous drop-off in the United States in virtually every category, but especially in mathematics falls way below average. So in trying to assess and get at the reason for this, some scholars have identified, looked at indicators of participation and indicators of belongingness. So participation, looking at things like attendance, coming to school, being tardy for school, actually attending classes, even when checking into school, or just playing hooky from certain classes. And these indicators, the United States high schools are far below average. In terms of belongingness, where indicators such as your sense of belonging, fitting in rather with your peers, having friends at school, and similar social indicators, the United States is far above average, outstripping China, Japan, and Korea, three of our principal economic competitors. So what some scholars have deduced is that American high schools are places where teenagers hang out with each other, but they're not particularly challenged academically. And this is confirmed by the indicators of participation. Also, American high school students spend far less time on homework than virtually every other teenagers in virtually every other developed country. United States high school students who travel abroad almost universally say that wherever they went, the curriculum was far more demanding and far more rigorous. And the thing is, while attending those foreign schools, they rose to the challenges and met those demands. They did their homeworks, their test scores were competitive. So there's a feeling amongst many that in trying to consciously or unconsciously dummy down our high schools, we've led to situations where our students have lost interest. And it's a loss of interest, a lack of interest, in fact, that is behind the lagging test scores for high school students in this country. That's one way that some account for the lack of performance. Now, coming to, and that's across the board. Charter schools in this regard fare no better than normal public schools. Charter schools and public schools, private schools fare no better significantly in terms of test scores vis-a-vis students in other countries. Well-financed districts don't fare too much better. Internationally, there's a differential domestically, but internationally don't fare all that much better, etc. So there's a common denominator, if you will. Now, what this leads us, it can lead us to conclude, is that instead of asking less of our students, we need to ask more, but in certain areas. Math scores indicates that the discipline that's required to succeed in math is lacking. And that lack of discipline plays itself out in interesting ways. United States high school students who enter college, community college, public or private, collectively are far more likely to not complete college than virtually every students in virtually every developed country on the face of this earth. In other words, the skills to succeed in college are particularly skills relating to discipline, concentration, a sense of purpose. Those are the critical elements that are lacking. So what do we recommend at Zaytuna College? And we've tried to incorporate this into our curriculum in the sense that in focusing on liberal arts, we're essentially doing the work of a high school or a college which occurred at high school age. Grammar school prepared students for high school. High school prepared students, which essentially was a college education, and college education prepared students for university education, which was focused on vocational training built on a liberal arts foundation. So what we're trying to do is equip our students with tools that will, number one, create in them an interest in learning. Because Dr. Mahan likes to say we're preparing lifelong learners. So the objective isn't to prepare students for a particular vocation, but to prepare them to succeed in whatever vocation they choose. And in doing that, we found, and this is anecdotal, because we don't have, I don't think, a large enough sample size yet to arrive at any firm, scientifically verified conclusions, but anecdotally, I think we can say that students are responding very positively to a few things. Number one, an education that focuses on explaining to the students why they're studying everything that they study. And we do this via a traditional tool called al-Mabadi al-Ashr. The 10 foundations of any science. So, what is the name of this subject? What is its objective? What is its benefit? What is its relationship to other areas of knowledge? What is the ruling in the Sharia concerning it? Is it obligatory? Is it highly encouraged? Etc. So this is one thing we've done, and the reason for that, letting the student know from the outset, why are you studying this? What is its relationship to other fields of academic endeavor? What are the benefits you should expect from it? So what are its fruits? How does it, what is its position in the overall scheme of things religiously? So this is one thing we've done. A second thing we've done is emphasize memorization. Memorization has been systematically removed from our curriculum, and many people are now challenging that. One of the reasons was that it stifles creativity. Historically, from Socrates until the present day, advocates of memorization have said the opposite is true. Memorizing provides the raw material, the stuff that you can be creative with. So what are you going to think creatively with if there's nothing up there to play with? So if I can't mix Robert Frost with lines from the Iliad with a didactic poem I've studied in Islamic law or theology or seerah or some other area. So in all of these various areas, literature, jurisprudence, principles of law, we're trying to introduce poetry, both in English and Arabic, as an essential part of the curriculum. And so again, not only to provide raw material for a student to be creative with in terms of their thinking, but also to inculcate discipline. And of course, one critical element of that is memorizing various verses and sections from the Quran as a part of the curriculum. Another thing we're trying to do is restore the centrality of the trivium, grammar, rhetoric, and logic, as the foundational tools of learning. النحو والمنطق والبلاغة. So how do you begin to formulate or analyze concepts to determine what might be truthful? This is the function of logic. How do you begin to formulate those concepts in an intelligible fashion? The function of grammar, to just boil it down to its essentials. And then how do you communicate that to others once it's formulated? And this is the function of rhetoric. So again, it's just a set of foundational disciplines to provide the student with the tools for subsequent learning. Letting a resource storing, and I think this is very important, what Dr. Musa mentioned, is the ethical component. I think generally in Islam we have a crisis, an ethical crisis. And it manifests itself in simple things that we see in our local masjids. The person who would respond in the way that he might respond to the death of his mother if he's not in the first row at Fajr every day, but hastens from the first row at Fajr to go open his liquor store. And so, where is the ethical thinking that would put such a value on performing the prayer in congregation in the front row every day, but has absolutely no qualms in selling alcohol, primarily in poor neighborhoods, to individuals who are already suffering from a wide array of social problems? So I think it's very important for us to restore the centrality of ethics and to really have a healthy respect for those various systems of assessing right and wrong and how they play out throughout our lives, and how as religious people, which are what we claim to be as Muslims, as religious people, that we are not truly human, if you will, if we have a gaping hole in the ethical foundations to buttress our existence. So these are some things that we're trying to do. Ultimately, I think integration is extremely important, and we'll stop here in a subsequent point. The physical creation, all of the sciences that explore and delve into the physical creation, the divine commandment and the metaphysical realms from which it emerges, and all of the realities associated with that, they all go back to Allah Ta'ala, and both are indispensable for understanding our religion. And finally, the diversity. The point of diversity is absolutely critical, but I think that diversity can be assessed in many ways. There is no way in the context of a 4-year education to to expose the student to a curriculum that would accommodate the interest of everyone. I saw an interesting statement yesterday when I went to get my back adjusted after throwing it out and rushing to a local chiropractor. In his office, chiropractors are interesting people. You can find interesting things plastered onto the wall. How do you spell failure? Trying to please everyone. So you have to take a stand at a certain point in terms of what are we going to try to convey to the students. I think where the diversity comes in, it's in your faculty. And there's an interesting aspect of Zaytuna College that most people haven't noticed. It's difficult to get people from the same backgrounds and same intellectual pedigrees to cooperate on a project. But we have Dr. Mahan Mirza, a proud product of the Tanzim al-Islami, Isra Ahmed, and then Yale University, combined with Faraz Khan, studied in Jordan, and a student of Sheikh Lou Keller, with Sheikh Hamza Yusuf from Mauritania, and that particular approach to Islamic studies and completing his PhD now at UC Berkeley Graduate Theological Union. Abdullah Ali, the first American to graduate from Qarawiyyin, a very interesting and independently minded fellow. Dr. Hatem Bazian, a critical theorist and very committed political activist. And you just go across Dr. Mark Delp, a Catholic, classical philosopher and logician, formerly teaching at Notre Dame, 13 years at the Dominican School of Theology, rather, unretired to teach for us, and very excited about it. There's a film, every time we see it, we laugh. It's like it's just on fire, and that's all right with me. And and you can go across the board. There are no two individuals who have the same religious and intellectual pedigree joining forces in one institution. So, and the fruits, they are exciting, and I think definitely if we should get our hands muddy and jump in knee deep, we're up to our waist and dirty up to our elbows, but we're enjoying every minute of it, and we appreciate all of the support, including the visit of Dr. Musa and his advice earlier on, and we've grown tremendously since then. And may Allah Ta'ala bless all of you, and may we collectively work to strengthen each other and lead each other, take each other by the hand and lead ourselves to the promised land. Thank you very much.